Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today, we are getting into another episode of the early off-season preview series, asking a couple of questions for each of the teams in the league as we are getting into the start of free agency and the start of some of the trades and signing news that we're going to be seeing here. So, we are down to just our last couple of teams, and the team we're looking at today is the Portland Trailblazers, a squad that has been in the news a hell of a lot recently, despite not actually making too many moves. So we'll get to that in a second. But first, let's look at some of the stats for the Trailblazers. Throw those up on the screen right now. In terms of their regular season record, they go 33-49. That put them in 13th place in the Western Conference, dead last in the Northwest Division in 5th, and obviously they end up missing the playoffs. So in terms of their ratings, offensive rating, they were 18th in the league. Defensively, pretty rough, 27th overall for them. That puts their net rating at 26th. They played with the 18th highest pace in the league and had the 22nd highest payroll. So not fantastic stats here for the Trailblazers, but we'll move things along. We'll take a look at some of the offseason additions and losses for this team because there are a couple on both sides. In terms of the additions, a trio of draft picks for Portland. Obviously, they get Scoot Henderson with the number 3 pick. They also take Chris Murray and Rayan Rupert. At least I think it's Rayan. There's an extra A in there, but yeah, a couple of young guys being added to the roster here for the Blazers. In terms of players lost, only a couple so far. That very obviously could change once free agency begins, but for now, it is Kevin Knox II who declined his player option. So he enters free agency and is no longer a part of the team. Or it may have been a team option, actually. I'm not sure now, but an option was declined of some sort. I'll double check that later. But the other loss here for the Trailblazers was Trenton Watford, who the team did waive just a little while ago. So, not entirely unimportant players, but not the major pieces that the NBA media may have been alluding to. But that takes us into our questions for the team. Question number 1 is the single most obvious question you could think of for the Trailblazers. Are the Trailblazers moving Damian Lillard? This is the big one. It's asked pretty much every year as well. So at this point, I think pretty much everyone's sick of it. The fans of the Blazers are sick of hearing it. Fans of every other team are kind of sick of the constant talk, but you can't get around it because one side or the other always kind of sort of leaves the door open, right? I know a lot of fans always talk about the fact that Damian Lillard has always mentioned that he wants to stay, but he also mentions that he wants the team to build something around him, and then they very rarely do. So it's complicated. Damian Lillard is pretty much the best player the franchise has ever had. If you wanted to debate, maybe you could have him versus Clyde, but either way, that they're both top 2, regardless of where you rank them. But the team has to choose between committing to moving on from him or committing to putting together something competitive in the short term for him. Because you can't kick the can down the road anymore. That's been the Blazers' plan earlier in his career, where they've sort of said, oh, we'll try to do this, we'll look into that, and then they really kind of honestly half-ass it. So now they have to make a decision, but either decision has massive implications for the team moving forward. If they do trade Lillard, then it has the chance to reap incredible assets to bolster a young group of players, right? Build around guys like Anfernee Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, the newly acquired Scoot Henderson. You've got other pieces like Jerami Grant and Yusuf Nurkic, who are both just 28 years old as well. So you've got a lot of young talent on this team, and if they pull the plug and send Lillard somewhere to compete, you're going to get a whole hell of a lot back that really kickstarts a potential rebuild. But the other half of this equation is, do they want to keep Dame? Do they want him to retire a Trailblazer? Do they want to make one more attempt at building something around him, because if they do, at least some of those assets will have to go. They'll have to part with picks. They'll have to part with some of the young trade. They'll have to part with some of their young players in a trade. A small move for, some sort of veteran player really doesn't feel like it's going to be enough at this stage. Damian Lillard has mentioned, you know, he wants them to build something competitive around him. So just one mid-level guy doesn't really feel like it would be enough. It feels like the Blazers would have to kind of swing for the fences here, bring in some sort of all-star caliber player, and sacrifice some of the young core to do so. But they seem fairly cemented in terms of not moving Damian Lillard. So we'll see what moves that they have to make to build something around him. But that leads us into question number 2 here for the Blazers. Do the Trailblazers bring back Jerami Grant, and can they afford to do so? Obviously, the answer to this question depends on the answer to the previous one with regards to Damian Lillard. If Lillard goes, then you probably have a lot of money to work with. Of course, if they let Damian Lillard go, they may also let Jerami Grant go, as opposed to paying him money to be on a rebuilding team, but that's a different scenario. If they keep Lillard and are legitimately looking to upgrade the roster around him for an actual attempt at a playoff run, then Grant could play into those plans. He averaged 20.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.4 assists last season. He shot 47.5% from the field and just over 40% from 3. And he did all this while playing the second most minutes per game behind only Lillard himself. So he gave you a lot of production, and he gave you a lot of good, honest, solid minutes for your roster. So he holds down a very vital position. He kind of plays into that sort of wing, small forward, power forward kind of position that a lot of teams are valuing very highly right now. So, in short, it was kind of a contract year for Grant. It was his time to show out and see if he could attract some offers, and he did exactly that. But now you're sort of assuming that Grant is going to look to get his payday. He wants to be paid a commensurate rate to the production that he was putting forward. Maybe he's willing to take a little bit of a discount if it means staying with the Blazers and building around Dame for one more shot. But don't expect a massive discount, right? A couple million maybe knocked off of his price at the most. But the problem with re-signing Grant is that it does eat a lot of the team's cap space bringing him back, right? If he's looking at something in the 20 plus million range, the Blazers don't have a whole lot of wiggle room left unless they start moving other pieces. So the Blazers have a decision to make there. How much do they value what Jerami Grant did for them this year? And is that enough to bring him back? So production-wise, I think the answer is yes. Financially, I think is where maybe the questions start getting asked, but that's for the Blazers front office to decide. But now we move on to question number 3, and this one's, I guess, really more of a theoretical point than a real one. But the question is, if you had to pick one between Shaedon Sharpe and Anfernee Simons, which one do the Trailblazers hold on to? Now, this is assuming that the Blazers are going to go out and try to make some sort of move for an upgrade to help Lillard compete, because you would think in that trade they would have to give up, some sort of young asset, and Sharpe and Simons are 2 of the better young players on this team. So in that instance, right, which one of them do you want to hold on to? Anfernee Simons clearly has the lead in terms of experience and in terms of development, right? He just finished, I think, his 5th season, so he is a little bit further along compared to Sharpe, who obviously has a lot less experience. He also has the better statistical profile in comparison. Simons posted 21.1 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, and 4.1 assists per game this season. So, at first glance, Simons is the clear choice to keep, but Shaedon Sharpe came on pretty strong in the back half of the season, especially for a rookie, and played especially well in that period over the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks when it was pretty clear that the Trailblazers were kind of shutting it down, and and not making a push for the play-in. During the team's final 11 games, he averaged 22.5 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 3.1 assists, and attracted a fair bit of attention at a point when the Blazers season was kind of over. Now, that was 11 games on the back end of a season when the team had kind of given up. Can he match Simons' production over a whole season? You don't have a clear answer to that, but he flashed his potential for sure. The other note in the Simons versus Sharpe debate here is the scale of their contracts. Anfernee Simons is set to make $24.1 million next season, while Sharpe is owed just $6.3 million. Obviously, the difference in their experience levels meant that their contracts were scaling at obviously very different times. For Sharpe as well, it should be noted that the Blazers have team options for 2 years beyond this season as well. So you're looking at either a more developed player in Simons with more consistent averages on a bigger contract, or the intrigue of a rookie with more potential maybe and a more manageable contract, but one who is less proven. So I don't know. If I'm the Blazers and I had to move one of them, I would probably move Sharpe and try to keep Simons. But the reason why I see Simons as a better value for the Blazers could also be the exact kind of value that another team sees and wants specifically in a trade scenario. So the fact that Simons might be the better choice also makes it so that more teams would want to pluck him away from the Blazers. Again, this is an entirely hypothetical scenario. It would depend on the Blazers even making a trade, and a trade that would have to involve one of those young players. There is a scenario here where the Trailblazers simply don't end up moving either one of them and get to have the benefits of both of these young, talented guys. So a little bit of a what-if question, right? But we needed a third point, and all the talk about the Trailblazers has been dominated by the Damian Lillard conversation, so I just wanted to talk about anything else for this team. But that is going to do it for Portland. Lots of big decisions here. Everything, though, does hinge on what the team wants to do with Dame. So feel free to let me know your thoughts. Does Lillard get moved? If he doesn't, how do the Blazers build around him? Do they bring Jerami Grant back? Do they keep both Simons and Sharpe? Do they move one or both of them? Try and go get some sort of all-star guy to play alongside Lillard? And if they do that, where does it put the Trailblazers in terms of their ability to actually compete? But feel free to let me know your thoughts. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.